Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just sway your mind.
Here, we take that chance for you and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this week will be Wolf Like Me. Me is a 2022 Peacock original.
It's not actually a Peacock original.
Is it not?
Nope. That's a lie told to the American public. It's actually a Stan original. STAN period.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
It's a production and streaming company from Australia, partnered with Peacock in the United States, and is Peacock's distributor in Australia.
Okay.
So, it's not a Peacock original, but it is distributed by Peacock in the States.
Okay. So, it's a show you can watch on Peacock in America.
Yeah. Episode 1 is entitled Episode 1.
Yeah.
Gotta love it when they do that. I actually kind of do love it when they do that, because sometimes episode titles give stuff away.
Yeah.
Although I've never had the episode 1 title being pilot give anything away. I'm like, ooh, who's gonna be the pilot in this episode? And there's never a pilot.
Yeah.
There's very rarely a pilot.
It's weird. You think they'd be more, I don't know, accurate with that, but whatever.
But episode 1 starts with a Groucho Marx quote: "Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let in the light."
Yes.
I don't know who Groucho Marx is. I know he's a comedian.
Yeah.
I don't really know who he is, though.
Funny glasses guy.
Okay, yeah, and the Groucho glasses thing. I remember, yeah. That's my cultural, awareness of Groucho Marx. This doesn't sound like a joke.
Yeah.
And I don't quite understand the context of this quote. Within the show, I kind of understand what it's talking about, because the show is very much about broken people.
Yes, very much so.
All three of our main characters, the term broken would aptly describe them.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I don't understand what this quote is what the context of the quote was for Groucho. When Groucho said, "Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let in the light," I don't know what the fuck he was talking about.
I mean, I don't know. Comedians don't always have to tell jokes, though, so I think it's fine.
No, they always have to tell jokes. That's what a comedian is.
Oh, damn. So we start this episode with Josh Gad at a restaurant with some random lady. I want to get this out of the
way from the get-go. You know how some people have very punchable faces and you just want to punch them?
Yes.
Josh Gad has that face for me. I think he's a wonderful actor. I started looking at his IMDb the other day and I was like, God, he's
Josh Gad's great.
I love him.
It's part of the reason I was interested in the show. I was like, oh shit.
And then I'm like, God, but I just want to punch him in the face.
So Josh's reason for that, as he told me when watching, because I couldn't comprehend it, was
I don't think that's the whole reason. Okay, I don't think this is the whole reason.
But part of the reason he gave me was Josh Gad just looks too happy most of the time.
He always looks happy. The dude is which is a good thing. People should be happy, but it irritates me how happy he looks all the time.
Also, he doesn't look that happy throughout most of the show, in my opinion. He looks pretty fucking sad because that's his character.
I mean, yes, he's battling depression in the show. He still looks happy. He's very good at masking. The show opens on Josh Gad's character, and he's getting dumped by his girlfriend. They've been dating for 3 months.
Yeah, and he's okay with it. He's just yeah, if you don't think this is what's best for you, that's fine. I understand. Well,
also his girlfriend's a psycho.
Oh yeah, and she's just we've been dating for so long, you haven't really opened up to me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, yeah, but I have a daughter. I want to make sure this relationship is good before.
His girlfriend is complaining because she hasn't met his daughter. They've been dating for probably a little less than 3 months, or about 3 months. She just says 3 months. But he has a daughter. She's 11. Her mom died at some point in the recent past. And
7 years ago, because I think he says when she was 4.
Okay, so not recent past, but her mom has died, so he's a single parent attempting to raise a daughter who lost their mother. With
severe anxiety problems, as we'll learn in a bit, and depression, as we'll learn in a bit.
And he just doesn't think it's a good idea to introduce this woman to his daughter at this stage in their relationship. And he's completely right.
Yeah.
And she's a psycho. She's like, you just don't think I'd be a good mother, do you? And he's like, dude, I've known you for 3 months. I don't know if you're going to be a good mother. We've known each other for 3 months.
Oh, yeah. And so she's causing a scene here and everything. And he's just like, hey, can you not? And she's like, you don't get to take this away from me.
I'm the one breaking up with you.
Yeah, why are you such a controlling asshole? And he's just like, what? She's like, you're just antiquated, like the dinosaurs. And he's like, okay. She's like, do you know what happened to the dinosaurs? They were killed by a meteor because they weren't prepared. And he's just like, don't think anyone can be prepared for a meteor. And she's like, well, you're certainly not. It's just, what the fuck, lady? Like, damn.
And then she storms out of the restaurant which we didn't say that. They're at a restaurant getting lunch, maybe. Doesn't seem like it's late enough for dinner.
Yeah, and he's just exasperated, and that's kind of just the end of this opening scene. He's just like, what the fuck was this?
And then we cut to Josh Gad preparing sandwiches and lunch stuffs, and it turns out it's the morning. He's prepping his daughter's lunch for school. He yells that they're going to be late if she doesn't hurry up.
He doesn't get a response, so he goes and knocks on her door. Still no response, knocks again, and then eventually opens the door. She scoldingly says, like, Dad, and he closes the door, and he's like, sorry.
She was working on a model of the solar system.
Yes. So he goes to help her get stuff out the door, and she's just like, I got it. And
I can do it myself.
Yeah, she's very cold to him.
Yeah, like, we don't know everything about what's going on with her right now. We don't even know that her mom's died. Like, that's not a thing we know yet. It just really felt like both his ex-girlfriend and his daughter were, like, both a little psycho. Like, his daughter, like, is like, no, I don't need you. Go away.
Yeah.
Like, and his girlfriend was like, I only need you. Please open up. I want to know your daughter. Like,
yeah.
Don't take this away from me. I'm breaking up with you.
So they're running late. They're in their car. They're driving in. His daughter is getting pretty anxious about being late. Like, she's flicking the window switch. She's annoyed about traffic, and she tells him to go a different way than they normally go because she's super worried about being late. And at first he's just like, we'll be fine. Like, we can just, and she keeps like, no, we're going to be late. Go this way. So he does.
Hold on. At a stoplight, she rolls her window down and waves over a homeless man and gives him her lunch.
Yeah.
And then Gad goes to follow her directions and turn and go, like, a different way.
Well, that happened right after he went a different way.
Oh, I thought that was right
No, because they hit a stoplight, like, right after she tells him to go a different way, which amused me, because she was complaining about shit like that.
Yeah, and then she gives the homeless man her food. He's panhandling at car windows and stuff.
Yeah.
And as they pull away, her dad's like, you can't be doing that. He could be dangerous. You don't know, like... She's like, he's homeless. How dangerous could he be? And, you know... I'm a little bit on both sides here. Like,
yeah,
if you have the means to help other human beings out, help them out.
However,
you're also in a large metropolitan area, and it's not uncommon for people to, like, literally steal people's cars by posing as homeless people.
Yeah, and he was just like, no, I understand, but, like, it's my job as a parent to keep you safe.
And then they get T-boned.
Yes. Because they're not in the wrong here at all. They're driving through the lights,
no, it's just a very good juxtaposition between him being like, it's my job to keep you safe.
And then T-boned.
And then another car hitting them directly in the side.
Yeah. And then we get the intro.
Which is a visualization of, like, blood cells and muscles and blood.
And a nice, like, kind of groovy jazz guitar.
I labeled it an indie rock sound.
That works too, yeah.
Yeah, it's got like an indie rock. Basically, it looks like it should be the opening for a medical drama.
Yeah, it does.
Like, if House didn't exist in 2000 whatever and instead came out in 2022, this would be the House OP.
Yeah, I can see it. So we get back from that, and this accident was actually kind of fucking bad. Like, they were T-boned, they flipped, rolled a bit. Yeah, no, they flipped. Their car was also sitting at an angle. Like, I thought the car was totaled.
Yeah, I also thought the car was totaled, which is why when we see it in their driveway later, I was like, why would you have them bring it to your house?
Yeah.
You should have had it, like, towed to, like, either a junkyard or a mechanic's, because there's no way that's drivable after that.
Yeah, it's weird. So, after the intro, we're back at the accident, and we start with Josh Gad, and he's just sitting there like, oh, no airbags. And he looks back and his daughter's having a full-blown panic attack.
He could sue the manufacturer of his car, right?
Yes.
Because airbags didn't
His
deploy,
airbags didn't deploy.
And that wreck definitely should have.
Yeah, definitely should have done so. So he's like, hold on, Emma, I'll be right there. And he's getting out of the car, and as he's doing that, we see someone tear off around to the other side towards his daughter's car door and pull it open, and it's Isla Fisher.
Yep, the other star of the show.
The other reason I saw the show and I was like, I like Josh Gad. Neat. Oh shit, there's also Isla Fisher.
It's nice that there's a leading actor in the show who I don't want to punch in the face. No offense, Josh Gad, you're a great actor. But yeah, so he's like, hold on, this has happened before, I can help. Give me a second. He, like, goes running looking for a book bag and stuff, and Isla Fisher's character is, like, just sitting in front of Emma, and he finds her stuffed wolf, which is, like, her comfort item.
Yes.
And goes to give it to her. I thought he was, like, looking for an inhaler or something. He's like, her panic attack very much seemed like an asthma attack. Was.
Yeah.
And so he grabs this wolf and takes it back to her to, like, help her with this panic attack. But by the time he gets back,
she's perfectly fucking fine. In fact, she's laughing a bit.
Yeah. Isla Fisher's character has already calmed her down and, like, got the panic attack to subside. And he's like, how did you do that?
What did you do?
Yeah.
And the homeless guy, while munching on a sandwich, goes, I'll tell you what she did. She wrecked into your car.
Homeless dude is like, I hope he just becomes a background character who makes observations.
That'd be great.
He is in episode 2 as well.
Yes.
So I just want him to be like a background character who's like the watcher.
Yeah. So then we cut back to Josh Gad's house, and Isla Fisher's character shows up at the door.
Well, we don't cut to his house. Not initially. We cut to Isla Fisher walking down a road.
Yeah.
With a book in her hand.
And then we see it's his house. She knocks on the door. Emma opens the door with a neck brace on, and Isla Fisher's just like, I'm so sorry.
And then she's like, I got you this book because I broke your universe. She's talking about the solar system model. Mm-hmm. The book is Contact
by Carl Sagan.
Yeah. I know this is going to make me sound insanely uncultured, but I didn't know Carl Sagan wrote novels because this says Contact, a novel by Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
Like, unlike Groucho Marx, I know who Carl Sagan fucking is.
Yeah.
I didn't know he wrote novels. I didn't realize he was also a novelist. That's like if you tell me Neil deGrasse Tyson is writing novels.
Oh god, his would be so horribly hard sci-fi.
Yes, and also they would have they'd have a very pretentious tone.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a fine person, but he probably always sounds like he's better than you.
Yeah, there'd probably be good humor and stuff, and I trust that there might be a good story, but it'd be kind of pretentious, and the hard sci-fi would probably be enough to just bore you to fucking tears. Because I have to assume he wouldn't explain it diegetically.
Yeah, The Expanse is a hard sci-fi show.
But it explains itself diegetically, within story.
It's also so good.
Yeah.
I might actually read those books at some point.
So, Josh Gad walks up behind his daughter, and Ava takes the book, and he's just like, well, say thank you. And his daughter just, like, turns, kind of glances up at him, and then walks into her room and shuts the door.
And then Mary goes to leave. She's like, oh, this is awkward. This is bad. I shouldn't have come here. This is harassment. I'm sorry. And like she goes to walk off, and Gad chases after her, and he's like, no, you should come in for tea.
Yeah.
You should come in for G. My name's Gary. You should come in for tea.
Yes. And so we learn both their names. Isla Fisher's character's name is Mary, and Josh Gad's character name is Gary.
And the homeless man's name is Barry.
No, it's Terry. Come on, man. So they go inside, and he's fixing them tea, and they're kind of just talking. And in this moment, we learn that Gary is he calls her his ex-wife, and then he's just like, I don't know why I said ex-wife. She's dead. Emma's mother is dead. She died of cancer.
Mm-hmm. And then Mary's like, oh, that was probably a bad book to give your daughter. Then the main character is a little girl whose mother died.
Yeah, and he's like,
she lives with her single dad.
It should be fine.
And then she's like, and then her dad dies too. And he's like, she might like that part.
Yeah, and he chuckles, and like, it's a really good scene all throughout here. And so we see Mary kind of just looking around. Josh Gad is in the background doing stuff with tea, and he cuts his hand open.
Breaks a mug, yeah.
Yeah, he breaks a mug and cuts his hand open.
And his hand is gushing blood, and they both start freaking out. And he's like, I'm gonna go get a bandage for it. And she's like, no, I'll go get the bandage. Tell me where to get it.
Yeah.
Which, I get that she's trying to be helpful, but when something like this happens and you're in an unfamiliar environment, you should probably let the person who knows the environment seek the medical aid.
Yeah.
Unless they're unable to.
Yeah. Like, I understand part of your point is like, keep rinsing your hand under water, but So he directs her to their bathroom, and she goes in, she opens the
medicine
cabinet, and is looking around for stuff, and in it we see a box of fluoxetine, which is an antidepressant medication. We don't know whether it's Gary's or Emma's, but so we do know at least someone in the house is being diagnosed with depression and has medicine to combat it.
Yep. So go out in the living room. Oh, actually, there's a brief scene here between Mary and Emma where Emma's like asks Mary if she meant what she said.
Yeah, after the accident.
And Emma was like, "You don't know me. How do you know that we felt the same?" And Mary's just like, "I've been there.
Yeah,
I get it."
Yeah, it was literally just about being scared because they kind of talk about it.
There was also a moment we kind of skipped with the neck brace at the very beginning.
Oh yeah,
where Mary's like, I read this book at your age, and it really helped me out. And Emma's like, you don't even know what my age is. And Mary's like, 11? And then Emma goes, I'm 12 in 2 months.
Yeah. Classic kid thing of like, fuck. Well, I'm almost this age.
I loved that. It was great. It was just,
it was sassy. It was like the most emotion we've gotten from Emma in throughout the show.
You don't know how old I am? 11? Well, fuck you. I'm 12 in 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. So
if I asked you again in 61 days, you'd have been wrong.
Yeah. So Mary and Emma are talking, and they kind of just stagnate in their conversation. And then Mary kind of remembers, oh shit, yeah, your dad's bleeding all over the fucking kitchen. I should go do that.
So she helps bandage up Gary's hand, and then they go outside to drink their tea. And we get a little bit of like background on Mary here.
Because Gary kind of does a interrogation. It's vaguely, it is actually not more than vaguely, it is incredibly awkward socially, but I also kind of get it because it's just like, you just randomly showed up at my house, you crashed into my car, like, it feels fine. It's just like, it's a weird conversation to have, but understandable.
It should be noted, at this point in the show, we've seen 4 characters speak. We've had Mary, Gary, Terry, and Emma speak.
Yes.
Mary and Gary speak with American accents, and both Terry and Emma speak with Australian accents.
Also, we heard more people speak. We heard background voices after the accident.
That's fair.
And they were also Australian.
We've had 4 named characters speak.
Yes, because Terry was definitely named.
We named him.
You know what? You make a fair point. So they're both kind of just talking, and Mary asks how Gary ended up here in Australia, and he's just like, well, it's where his mom was from. We moved here, and after she died, I just didn't feel like I had the right to take my daughter away from
her mother's family. Yeah, Lisa's family. Especially because Lisa's family helped out a whole bunch while she was dying of cancer. So
and so he turns the question back on Mary, and Mary's just like, well, I travel a lot, and I don't really need to be anywhere specific to do my job.
Yeah, and she's from Chicago. Chicago.
So he asks her what she does, and she's like, oh, well, I volunteer at places, I do...
And then she's like, oh,
quilting and stuff like that.
What I do for a job.
Yeah, and she is a columnist for the newspaper, and she writes advice columns.
A Dear What's It column.
Yeah.
I don't remember what her name was.
Dear Adelaide.
Adelaide, yeah, because they live in Adelaide, so her pen name is Adelaide, Dear Adelaide. But it's a Dear What's It's article type where people write in Dear fake name, obviously. I'm having these issues, signed most typically like
a letter.
Like no, like they sign it with like people when people write to these type of articles, they go Dear What's It or like Dear Adelaide, blah 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 blah. Signed Sleepless in Melbourne.
Well, the thing is, like from what I know, a lot of them don't actually do that. That is the columnist changing it to like they either the names. Yeah, they either change the name to a letter or to base problem.
Yeah, so that's what she does for a job.
And he's just like, well, what do you need to do that? And we learn she has an undergraduate degree in psychology and that she kind of just couldn't handle more school, apparently, something like that. And he's like, that makes sense. And then we hear a clatter from inside the house.
And Gary's distracted. He looks back in the house. And while he's distracted, Mary takes her teacup. And she's like, this is really awkward. This is really weird. I need to escape. Breaks teacup.
She fucking spikes the thing into his porch. And he startlingly turns back around and he's like, are you okay? You're covered in tea.
Basically, she was like, hey, you guys remember that Lonely Island Band song?
I knew this reference was coming.
Because she threw it on the ground?
Yeah. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go get a towel and everything. And goes inside and he's like yelling, do you need ice or anything? And she takes off.
Takes off running. Opens the gate in the backyard and just keeps going.
So he comes back out and sees the gates open, follows her, and he kind of chases her down the street again. She's like, are we really doing this again? Look. And she's like, I shouldn't have come here. It's really awkward. It's not okay. And he's like, no, it's fine. Do you want to get lunch tomorrow? We can talk about things more. And she's like, no, it's fine.
He asks about dinner, and she's like, no, I can't. And he's like, what about lunch?
Well, I paused for a moment there because I kind of missed a fun line.
Oh, yeah.
And she's talking about how awkward it is, and he's like, and she's like, look, you're a nice guy. I crashed into you, your daughter's hurt and everything. I wrecked your car. And she's like, yeah, and I am still going to sue you.
But would you like to get dinner? And she's like, yeah. I can't. And he's like, lunch?
No, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I completely overstepped my bounds. And she's like, no. I can't do dinner.
Yeah, and then they agree on lunch.
Yes.
Cut to them sometime later.
Walking down the street.
And Gary takes her to his favorite Italian place. But then she freaks out about the Italian place and runs off.
So he follows after. He's like,
is this our thing? Do we like have a conversation and then you just run away and I have to chase you?
Yeah.
Because if so, that's gonna get really old really fast.
Yeah. So he's like, is there a problem or anything? She's like, I can't eat there. I'm vegan. And he's like, well, they have this great non-vegan. She's like, no, it's fine. And he's like, is it a gluten thing? And she's like, no. Ooh, how about here? And drags him into an underground bar.
Yep. They have wine. They bond. They talk. Not a whole lot here, like as far as what happens in the show.
No, not really. We learned that she really likes music, and he doesn't really listen to music anymore.
He used to sing Emma to sleep, but...
Yeah, he used to sing, Don't Dream It's Over by Crowded House to his daughter to help her sleep.
And so she gets him to sing the song because the music stops in the bar.
Yes.
And... yeah, so, like, there's not a lot of, like, action, and, like, honestly, when we get to what we like about the show, I'm gonna dive back into that point.
Yeah.
But they get to know each other a little better. She mentions that she's in Adelaide because her husband died.
Yes.
And...
while they were backpacking in Europe.
yeah. And then they almost kiss.
Mm-hmm.
She gets up really fast.
Well... a new song starts, and she gets up really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it
and
seems to be triggered by the song.
And she's like, I can't do this. I shouldn't have got day drunk like this. I have to go. And he's like...
well, I don't think you can really call it day anymore.
And she's like, what? Yeah, he makes that stupid joke. He's like, it's not day anymore.
And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's 6. And she's like, fuck! And tears off.
Like, sprints nonstop max speed all the way through town until she gets back to her house, where she locks herself in what I thought was a vault, but I later realized was a basement.
Yeah, and that's the end of this episode.
Yeah. So we want to get into what you like about episode 1?
My favorite part of episode 1, we don't have any heavy-handed exposition anywhere in this.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, like, awkward dialogue.
Yeah, there's awkward dialogue that is exposition, but it doesn't feel heavy-handed or, like, expositing to exposit. It feels very much like actual good character interaction.
So, like, when I say awkward dialogue, I don't mean, like, it feels like the writing is bad.
No.
Or, like, the dialogue is awkward because it's meant to exposit.
Yeah, it's meant to be awkward.
Yeah, it's two people who... have an awkward relationship trying to communicate with one another.
Yeah, and it's great. So my favorite part of this entire episode is no heavy-handed exposition. It does its exposition well, and I really liked it.
The relationship here being crashy and crasher.
Yeah.
Those are the correct terms, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Yeah, so I also really like the lack of actual overt exposition, but also there's a very nice subtle character building going on here where, like, we get details about the characters through how they interact with each other rather than through, like, blatant character statements. Again, I know I mentioned it last time I recorded an episode, but I've restarted Buffy recently. I like Joss Whedon's works. He's a terrible human being, but he's not the best at overt character building. Well, at subtle character building.
Yeah,
very
it's
good.
all overt.
It's all overt, yeah. I think the best thing about the show, though, in an age of television where, like, the big shows that people talk about are, like, these giant, sprawling, like, epics.
Yeah.
The Witcher, Game of Thrones, stuff like that. Stuff that has, like, super, like, dense character stories and, like, dense world building. This show is really comfortable just being about 3 people.
Yeah, very much so. Like, in this first episode, we don't really hear anyone ever really have any important lines besides these 3. Like,
there's only 3 named characters in this episode. Sorry, Terry.
No, we get some other names because I don't really remember them, but Gary walks into the Italian restaurant and he greets the people by name because apparently this place has been ran here for, like, the last 60-something years, something like that.
By the same family,
By the same family. And he's, like, giving people hugs and saying their names and stuff. So he's been there a lot and he seems very welcome. Yeah. Which has to make it even more awkward for him when he just had a bell all of a sudden.
Yeah. Onwards to episode 2, which is also entitled Episode 2. And when the episode starts with Gary knocking on the bathroom door, telling Emma it's time for bed.
No.
No?
The episode starts on a pan shot of an arm that at first I couldn't tell if it was, like, in a sleeve or anything because it's like nude peach shirt and, like, a moon on the sleeve and stuff, and they're laying on what looks like a tile floor, and then we see water creeping. Yeah. And then Gary's knocking on a bathroom door. And
water's flooding out of the bathroom. He's knocking on the door. He's like, Emma, it's bedtime. We need to go to bed.
Emma, I don't have time to play around right now. Like, we can't do this right now.
And then he notices the water coming out from under the door. He kicks the door down, and Emma's lying on the floor. And we immediately cut to a scene of him speeding down, I want to say a road, like a street, but, like, it looked like a 4-lane, so it might be a highway.
Yeah. I mean, he does end up on a street here.
It would be an inner city highway, but, like, a highway nonetheless.
He's just fucking tearing through the city of Adelaide to a hospital.
Does Australia have highways? Is that what they're called there?
I don't fucking know. It's why I didn't care to say what it was.
A street. He's speeding down a street.
Yeah, or a road. A road generally works.
Road is a better term. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he pulls into the ER and, like, panics because his daughter's unconscious. And
he starts yelling for help, and people come out, and we hear him kind of explain the situation, but the sound mutes, and we go to our intro again.
Yep. And then, sitting in like, the waiting area of the hospital, his sister-in-law shows up and has brought Emma's comfort animal and not much else, it seems.
Yeah. And she sits down next to him, and he's just like, do you think that this is my fault? Do you think what I did caused this?
And that threw me for a little bit. I was like, what did he do?
Right? And she's just like, no, you can't blame yourself. It's not on you. Like, it should be fine. She's going to be fine, right? And he's like, yeah, they said she should be okay.
His sister-in-law gets a name, but I have forgotten what that is.
I don't remember either. Also, to note, his sister-in-law is very pregnant.
Yes.
So they're sitting there, and she's just comforting him because he is very, like, worried, anxious, and depressed at the moment because, well, his daughter, as we learned in this, just tried to commit suicide.
His sister-in-law's name is Sarah.
Sarah, that's what it was.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, his daughter just tried to commit suicide, and for some reason we don't know, he feels responsible, like he might have caused it.
Yep. Then the doctor tells him that his daughter's awake, but as he's going into her room, a medical professional of some sort is like, next time you really just need to call an ambulance.
Yeah, but honestly, not necessarily. It depends on like how close he is, how far away he is. What he should have done, at least if it works similarly to, I don't know, American systems, was
never call an ambulance in America because they cost money.
True. I was going to say, call the hospital on your way to let them know so you would make sure to have staff at the entrance. Because you can do that. You can call a hospital ahead and be like, hey, I'm coming in with an emergency, and you can explain the situation over, and they'll have things prepared, generally.
Yeah.
Because, fun fact, yeah, sometimes it's not the best to wait for an ambulance. Like, they're not wrong. They live in a major metropolis. There's probably an ambulance on patrol nearby. And they do have a lot of things there that can help with instances of suicide, depending on what it is. Like, I assume she tried to overdose on something?
Yeah, we learned that in the next scene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah, it doesn't say it outright, but we do learn that.
Which is that's the best part about this show, because we now know who's
fluoxetine.
We now know who the fluoxetine belonged to. And we also learn that, like, she was self-regulating her medical intake.
Because after this scene, we go to a psychiatrist's office where she is sitting.
And the psychiatrist's first question is, the first question we hear from the psychiatrist is, why?
Did you want to hurt yourself?
And, like, she eventually talks about how she didn't want to hurt herself.
She just didn't want it to happen again.
Yeah, she doesn't say what it was.
And he's like, do you mean the anxiety attacks?
And then he's like, okay, well, obviously the fluoxetine isn't working.
We're going to switch to a new medication.
Because if the fluoxetine was working,
you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I mean, she would have still been here. She probably sees a psychiatrist regularly.
Yeah. I think he meant in this situation, though.
Yeah. Also,
I think the psychiatrist has a New Zealander accent. Like, it feels, like, kind of heavier.
I don't know the differences. I'm going to sound like a stupid American, but sometimes I have trouble.
In my brain, it sounded more like Rhys Darby in What We Do in the Shadows than, like, Australian, if that makes sense. Yeah. It sounded much more like, we're werewolves, not swearwolves. That's how my brain goes on things, okay?
What We Do in the Shadows is excellent. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I haven't seen the show, but
the show is also pretty good.
The movie, oh, God.
So anyways, he's like, okay, we'll just have Dad be in charge of the medicine this time, which is obviously where we learned, she probably kept the medicine back up and then took a lot of it at once. So it does tell us how she tried to do it. Just in show, not blatantly stated. And my God, am I happy with that fact. I don't think I realized how many shows just blatantly tell you information or exposit everywhere until we started doing this podcast.
It's actually, like...
It's so bad. There's so many things I do it and...
It's a gross over, like, how to...
reliance on, like, bad storytelling?
Yeah, and, like, it's obvious as somebody consuming this media that it comes from a place of, like, directors or writers not trusting their audience to understand or grasp these things, which is blatantly insulting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a line between insanely subtle storytelling where you have to start, like, asking, like, or expositing the same thing 3 times because you have 3 different narratives and you're telling the same exposition 3 times.
Like, even here, I could understand being like, so at first, if you don't know what fluoxetine is and you see it in the medical cabinet,
I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, you're not really going to click on it. You might notice that it's kind of important because it's the only thing we see a name of and it's kind of centered in the medicine cabinet.
I immediately saw it and was like, oh, that's vaguely important. Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's an antidepressant medication. Because
if you hadn't said anything, I was just going to be like,
I had to learn about that shit. And I was like, that's an antidepressant medication. But like, even if you didn't know that, when you got to this point in the scene, you'd be like, oh, that was probably an antidepressant.
Even if your first thought wasn't like me, be like, oh, I don't know what that is. Google, what is fluoxetine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what fluoxetine is. Now I know.
Yeah. And so, like, it's not too hard. Like, actually, I believe it's an antidepressant medication. It's also sometimes used in treatment of OCD.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, no, like, the show explains things really well. And sure, there might be a few moments where you're like, I'm not entirely sure I get that. But the show goes about it explaining it well enough without doing it overly and still lets you understand the show.
So Emma finishes her meeting with the psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes outside to meet her father, and she's like, where's the car? He's like, I took it home and walked here. I figured we could walk and, like, spend some time together. And she's like, I just wanted to go home.
I had PE today.
I don't need more exercise.
Yeah.
I had PE.
So it's nothing about the show. It's more about just the location for the shooting. I'm mainly just confused about how sidewalks work in Australia, because there aren't sidewalks. There is a paved stone path from the building where the psychiatrist is down to almost the street. I say almost the street because then we just hit like a patch of grass that then goes to the curb and then the road. And the buildings along the path all the way down do the same thing. We just end up on grass and there's no sidewalk. Is sidewalk just not a thing in Australia? Do you guys not have sidewalk?
I mean, we don't have sidewalk in large portions of the United States.
Yeah, but that's just because we hate our
pedestrians.
Like, they still had more room next to the side of the road than we do.
We simultaneously hate pedestrians and public transportation.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say. Like, my brain just went, that looks weird. I have no problems with it. It just looked weird on my brain because it was just paved stone, grass, road.
So there's not a lot that happens on this walk home.
No, they're just kind of walking.
There's not even a lot of like character building or conversation happening. We do cut to the next morning. I think it's the next morning. It could be a morning 2 weeks from now. The show doesn't have very like good sense of time.
Yeah, no. We learn a bit of a time thing later in this episode
that at some point in the show it's been 3 weeks since him and Mary went out for lunch.
Yes.
3 weeks. And then we learn that it's actually been a month.
Yep. Since the accident.
No.
A month since then? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because, jumping ahead real fast, Sarah is like, yeah, you need to go out. It's been 3 weeks since you've been on a date. And then he bumps into Mary again later, and he's like,
I don't think
it's been 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since I last saw you. And she's like, actually a month. Because the month comes into play being important because, spoiler alerts, if you didn't get it from the title of the show or the fact that Mary has a basement that she locks herself into, she's a werewolf.
Mm-hmm. Not a werewolf.
And so he says it's been 3 weeks since he's been on a date.
I don't think Sarah says it's been 3 weeks since she's been on a date. I think she just says it's been 3 weeks. And my assumption there was that it had been 3 weeks since Emma had hurt herself. Because my assumption was Sarah was very much like, it's fine, you can leave your daughter here for the night.
Then why does he specifically take that 3 weeks and apply it to him and Mary? Because he's like, it's been 3 weeks since. And she's like, no, it's been a month.
I don't know. I didn't really think about that. My mind didn't kind of gel those bits together.
That's why I assumed she was talking about going out on a date.
It could technically be both because he got back, assumingly from that very late, and his he seemed to have gotten back, and he was wearing, I think, the same outfit. Like he had the
fair
jacket
point.
on.
Fair point. But I would have assumed Sarah was watching Emma when he was out on his date because...
Well, it was meant to just be a lunch date.
Yeah, but I don't think the show's portraying him as like a neglectful or bad
father.
Yeah,
I agree. But
like, this point, I definitely don't think that's what was happening here.
Yeah. I don't know.
So that's the only complaint I have for the show so far. Timeline's a little wonky.
Yeah. So we're at breakfast sometime in the future.
Sometime after attempted suicide.
But not, and in the future, but not too far in the future. Just.
And he's trying to get her to open up and talk to him.
He's fixing pancakes with strawberries.
And she's like, I'm not hungry when he gives her plate.
Yeah, she's like, just slumped over the breakfast table.
And he's like, well, you didn't eat last night either. And she was like, I wasn't hungry then either. He's like, well, you gotta eat.
Well, her boy's like, is it the new medication?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm just not hungry.
And he like keeps trying to talk to her, like getting her to open up. And then she snaps at him. She's like, why is it always about me? Why can't like you talk about you or what you're doing? Or you just don't have a life.
And he's like, well, the main thing in my life is you, to make sure you're okay. It's my job to like care about you and worry about you. And she basically just calls him a loser and that he doesn't have a life again. And they're kind of just sitting there for a moment. She's like, I wish your mother was still here. And she's like, God, gets up and walks away.
Yeah. Well, it's really like, because she's like, look, you're still depressed and upset about upset, and you won't open up and talk about it yourself. Why should I? He's like, okay, well, I wish.
At a point, he even says like, I have to be composed. I have to.
It's not your job to
be
handle
strong.
My problems. It's my job to handle your problem. And she's like, you won't ever talk about your problems. Why should I talk about mine? And he's like, he sits there for a minute. And he's like, I wish your mother was still alive. He's like, he's opening up and talking about his issues. And then she gets mad because he actually did what she asked her.
Yeah.
He did what she asked him to do.
Yes.
English is hard. God.
And then from here, we see him dropping Emma off at his sister-in-law's, Sarah's. And he's apparently going on a date. And Sarah's just like, this will be great. Hopefully you have a good time. And she's like,
don't worry about staying out too late or anything. We can keep him all night if we need to.
And he's like, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think she's just wants to learn more English. And she's like, no, it's fine. He's like, no, her Bumble profile says she just wants to practice English.
Yep. And he drives to a mall where they're supposed to meet. And while looking for a parking space, he sees this young, newly married couple and their newborn baby. And he just has a breakdown in the parking lot.
Yep.
Honestly, super, like, emotional scene.
Yep.
It's shot in a very voyeuristic manner. It feels...
uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's very much an uncomfortable scene to watch.
But I think that's clearly the point. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. We are seeing this man who has been struggling to be strong just break down over a tiny thing.
It's a very powerful scene. Very well done. This show is very good. Anyways.
And then in the mall, he's on a date.
And she's literally just using him to learn English. She's like, now, like, after they introduce each other and, like...
he corrects some of her grammar. And she's just like, teach me.
And he's like, we're on a date. And she's like, no. Shakes her head, no.
And he, like, tries to explain it. And she's like, laughs a bit and goes, no.
And then he, like, basically gives up on the date.
Yeah.
And as her and him are parting ways, saying goodbye, Mary comes running through the mall with a cup of
really hot fucking coffee.
Tea. It's chai.
Yeah. And smashes into him.
Yep.
He yells like, fuck. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, why is this so hot? You shouldn't be drinking this.
Why do you keep doing this?
Yeah. So she, like, grabs some paper towels from, like, a nearby restaurant.
And
then we see them in a park and everything. And
they're sitting next to each other on a park bench, yeah. And she's just got, like, a bag of meat.
Yep. Like,
a clear, large plastic bag. And it's, like, tied shut, so it's, like... it's almost like a small trash bag.
It's akin to what you would get if you've ever gotten meat from, like, a butcher and you have like large cuts of meat, or it might be the scraps, or if you get meat from any food production place, like if you work in a restaurant, like bags of meat, it's a thing.
The only time I've seen bags like this,
I see them every day, filled with chicken.
Okay, the only time I've seen bags like this in use was like in a dentist office or something, where like they're putting like bloody cloth and stuff.
It's a fish bag. It's a bag you put a goldfish in.
But it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're talking, and he's like, did I do something wrong? Like, the way you just ran away, and then...
she's like, no, it's me. I really like you. You're a really nice guy, but I do have a lot of baggage. And she's like, I have baggage too. People have baggage. And she's like, I really don't think it's as bad as mine. And she's like, okay, fine, let's do this.
He's like, trauma dump, initiate. My daughter just tried to kill herself.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's because of stuff I've done.
Because when her mother died, I just left her for 6 months. Mm-hmm. Like, I just pieced the fuck out because I couldn't be around anything that reminded me of Lisa.
I left our house. I sent her to live. I took her over to my sister-in-law's.
No, that's not how it reads.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that. He says he left, but Sarah took Emma in.
Yeah.
It sounds like he pieced the fuck out and left Emma, Sarah, and Lisa's family at the hospital, and he just left.
Yeah, it's vague exactly how that situation was handled, but like, yeah, no, he very much just like could not cope.
Yeah. And he's like, so I think that's why my daughter tried to kill herself, because she's afraid I'm going to leave again.
And I'm pretty sure she hates me, so she doesn't talk to me. I think it might even be why she has her anxiety attacks, because I failed as a father. Like, I couldn't do the one thing I was supposed to do, and now I struggle to do it daily because she doesn't trust me anymore.
And he opens up about like seeing that new couple in the parking lot. He's like, that was supposed to be us. Mm-hmm. Like, not him and Mary, but like him and Lisa.
Yeah.
And then she got cancer and died. And he's like, and I wouldn't even let Emma see her mom in the final weeks because it wasn't her mom anymore. She like got to the point where she wasn't even herself.
Yeah, and I didn't want her to remember her mother that way. And I think she might hate me for that as well.
And then Mary's like, oh, yeah, okay, so, yeah, you got some serious baggage too, I guess.
Yeah, and she vaguely explains what happened to her boyfriend and that he was attacked by a feral animal. Yeah,
they were backpacking in Europe, and a werewolf in London attacked them, and he died, but she got bit and survived, and now she can't go home because she's a werewolf, and Chicago is a major metropolitan area. And also, she can't, like, make excuses to not be around people she knew because they're going to be like, yo, why can't you hang out? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm a werewolf, so I have to go lock myself in my basement dungeon in Chicago. Yeah, that's why she moved.
No, she really just moved because owning a basement dungeon in Chicago, so expensive.
Yeah, so it should be noted during the scene while they were talking, she has his car keys.
Because she's cleaned them off because the fob is fucked up because she spilled tea all over it.
Yeah, and then she does what she does. and
they do actually kiss here this time, right?
Yeah, she kisses him. Yeah,
she kisses him,
and then she takes off running, and he just sits there for a couple of minutes.
I'm like, what the fuck?
And he's like, oh shit, she has my car keys.
So he's running after her, calling her name, and she looks back, like sees him, and runs harder.
And then she gets in her car and drives off.
So he hails a taxi, and he's just like, follow that vehicle. And the guy's just like, do you know what's going on? He's like, no, just follow. And he's like, okay. It's 2022, mate. Like, you shouldn't be following a woman like this.
Yeah. He's like, mate, it's 2022. You can't be doing this.
Yeah. And, like, the guy, the taxi driver, like, reasserts that idea several times on the drive, but never at any point the taxi driver it's like, look, this is too weird. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to help you stalk this woman.
Mary blows through a stoplight, and Gary's like, look, we got to go after her. He's like, nah, dude, there's a stoplight.
He's like, I'll pay you extra. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Not how that works, dude.
You really shouldn't be doing this anyways, man.
They eventually catch up to her as she's like she pulls to a stop in front of her house. She's getting out of her car. He's like, oh, that's her. Thanks, man. And he's like, dude, this is fucked up. And the taxi driver drives off. And he, like, goes up to her front gate, doesn't, like, enter her yard or anything. And as she turns around and sees him, and she's like, the fuck, you follow me?
What the fuck is wrong with you? Get out of here.
He's like, you have my car keys?
Also, while she's doing this, she's like, carrying several cages of chicken inside and taking a goat inside.
And then she says something like, well, come on. And he's like, oh, okay. So he opens the gate.
She yells, come on.
And, like, he sees that as an invitation. Because honestly, that's how it appeared. And he follows her to the house, and she's like, opens her basement door, and she's like chucking stuff down there.
Chickens. And a bag of meat.
And because the keys were in the same hand with the bag of meat, chucks his keys down there.
And she sees him at a point, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing in here, Gary? Get the fuck out. And he's like, you have my car keys. And
she notices that she just threw them down, and she runs down to grab them, and then she realizes she doesn't have time.
She kind of trips in, like, pain and growls, like,
in
pain.
Her body convulses. She realizes she doesn't have time, so she runs back to the top of the stairs, slams the door, and she's like, I hope you like what you've done now, you asshole. And her house, which honestly, this answers the question I had in the first episode, because in the first episode, she locks that door.
And we hear a lot of mechanical sounds.
Well, I didn't, like, register the mechanical noises very much, but I was like, she never locked her door to her house. She just ran in. I was like, I get locking yourself in a basement, but what if somebody, like, notices your open door?
Yeah.
Like, but it turns out when she initiates the lock on her basement door, the entire house enters lockdown mode and, like...
Still shutters over the windows and the doors.
And he's like, the fuck?
And Gary's trapped inside. Like, he tries to run out into the door, doesn't get to it in time, and we see a still shutter fall. And because the front door is still open, so we see the shutter.
He goes back to the kitchen, which is connected to the has the basement door there, and we hear what sounds like a giant monster because she's a werewolf now.
Yeah, growling, and
that's the end of the episode.
Yep,
we don't actually get a werewolf reveal here, although she is definitely a werewolf. That's the end of episode 2. Which means if you're interested in watching this series, there are 4 more episodes after this, and that's the end of season 1. I should mention the show has not been picked up for a season 2 yet, although based on what I was reading, season 2 is likely to happen. So
cool. It is a 6-episode miniseries
from 2022. Just started in January, I think.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did watch the rest of this show after this.
I haven't watched the rest of it yet. I probably will at some point.
And honestly, I enjoyed the show overall, like very much so. And honestly, this next interaction after, like, in the beginning of episode 3, great. I love it.
I enjoy the subtleness of the storytelling of the show.
Very much so.
It's actually hilarious how subtle that they manage to be when the show is literally, like, titled, Hey, Look, a Werewolf.
Yeah. It is a breath of fresh air. But I mainly just mentioned that I'd watch the rest of this because in classic fashion, if we don't have a lot of money, we don't get a werewolf reveal, like, physically see on screen until episode 6.
Makes sense. I think,
which by the time I was getting there, I was like, okay, it's episode 4. Yep, no werewolf. We're not gonna have one in episode 5. Episode 6, we'll see the werewolf. Not long, briefly. That's how these shows work.
I think even my favorite show with werewolves spends a lot of time like shooting around the concept of a werewolf.
Because it costs so much money if you're doing it in computer visual effects or like visual effects with a puppet or whatever. It costs a lot of money both times.
They actually do it in episode 2 in Being Human. It just feels like they very strongly...
I think they show it like once there, but we don't see a lot of it in Being Human because most of it's Josh.
Not until season 2 and 3 when they had a larger budget.
Yeah, because a lot of it in the beginning is Josh ignoring the werewolf thing, so...
Yeah,
we see him more struggling with the
Sally's
concept.
the first one to we see who. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking about Being Human. That's the best supernatural show ever made, including Supernatural in that argument.
Yeah, I'd agree. We've already done this part before, though,
which makes it really hard for me to get interested in supernatural dramas about dealing with the idea of being.
Yeah,
like that's a very specific niche genre. But, like, it's actually populated way more than you would think. And Being Human is the best example of the genre. And every time I see another show trying to do the genre, I'm like, yeah, but, like...
You're not being human, though.
I would say the thing this show does better than Being Human is the subtleness of it.
Yes.
Being Human always feels like a show.
Very much so.
Like, it's very good, and there's nothing wrong with a TV show feeling like a TV show. But the conversations and the way characters interact in Wolf Like Me feels much more natural.
Yes.
Than some of the interactions in Being Human.
Mm-hmm. Like, so there's a thing that we didn't really talk about that I found kind of intriguing and a bit the most odd thing that didn't feel very much like it. It felt very out of place, but it's meant to. In the bar, when they're doing stuff with their date, Mary is, like, way too into music at points.
Well, we glossed over it, but there's a part where she's talking about the artist they're listening to.
Melody Gardot.
I didn't know who that was. But apparently Melody Gardot got into an automobile accident and, like, basically had to relearn how to live.
Yeah.
And during that, she was trained to sing because she was having trouble communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Melody Gardot became a famous singer, because part of her rehab was learning to sing. And, like, without that accident, which effectively reset who Melody Gardot was because of the amount of brain damage she suffered, there would never be the award-winning artist Melody Gardot. And so, like, it kind of feels like Mary's like, hey, look, I wrecked into you, but, like, it could be for the better. You never really know how things are going to turn out until after they're done. Yeah,
there's that. But she also has really visceral reactions to the music throughout it. Like, the Melody Gardot song starts, it's very much like, oh, this song, and, like, immediately vibes to it, but, like, weirdly, like, swaying with it and stuff. Like, it's just kind of awkward to watch when you have Josh Gad on there, so I just sitting there like, okay, and her on the other side just vibing to music.
No, it's not that awkward. You have to go back to the quote that it was music that tamed the beast.
Yeah.
That calmed the beast? I don't know how that quote goes.
Something like that.
I'm terrible with quotes. Don't quote me on that.
It was beauty that killed the beast.
Not what I was talking about, but yeah, it was beauty that killed the beast. That's King Kong, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, the most television aspect of the show is when Mary's booking her way home. And I think there's another point in episode 2, if I remember correctly, where she is narrating to herself, basically.
Yeah.
A Dear Adelaide conversation about her own life. So it's
that's when
talking about her own problems.
No, that's episode 1 when she's running home.
Mm-hmm. There's not one episode 2 then.
No, there's not one episode 2.
I couldn't remember.
It's episode 1 when she's running home.
Yeah.
Because the Dear Adelaide is like, Dear Adelaide, I have left everything I knew behind and got myself involved with a man I shouldn't have been involved with.
And he's really nice and everything, but I'm not good for him.
And, like, then she's like, it sounds like you're trying to run away from all your problems. And the thing about running away from your problems is you can never actually outrun them. At some point, you're going to have to turn and face the issues in your life and actually resolve them. And, like, she's actually giving herself great advice and then just ignoring it as she books to her basement.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think, the show's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hammer home how good the subtle, like, character building is.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Obviously, I would watch more of it. You've already said you watched all of it. So, if you think this show sounds like something you're interested in, you'll have to watch it on Peacock. That's the only place to watch it in America.
Yeah.
Honestly, if your internet service provider isn't Comcast and didn't give it to you for free, I don't know how you get Peacock. I've never looked into it.
Yeah. If you're one of those weird people, though, that have Peacock to, like, watch WWE, stop doing that and watch Wolf Like Me.
Because that's the only way you can access the WWE Network anymore.
Yeah. Look, I'm the one that mentioned wrestling first this time. Congratulations.
I was actually going to make a reference to that when I was talking about Stan Network, because apparently when Stan Network launched and got universal streaming rights for Peacock and affiliated networks in Australia, they became the sole proprietor for WWE wrestling streams in Australia.
Yeah.
So I was going to mention it because, like, the only reason people buy Peacock is for WWE Network.
Yeah, I've seen so many people talk about only using Peacock for WWE. I'm just like,
it's
man, that feels
Peacock
bad.
Or The Office. It's like WWE Network or The Office. That's the only reason people buy Peacock, from what I can understand.
Yeah, but Peacock actually has, like, Wolf Like Me was good. I'm pretty sure you can watch AP Bio on there, which was a pretty good, like, comedy.
So if you haven't already bought Peacock for your wrestling needs, I don't know how you're going to go about getting it. Sure, you can Google it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's this thing called pirating.
No.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying there are websites out there where you can definitely watch the show for not buying Peacock.
Yeah, definitely that. We just don't say the P word.
Peacock?
Yeah, not allowed to say it.
Okay, my bad. Anyways, thank you for flying with us. If you want to get in contact with us,
you can email us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
You can tweet us at copilotsreview.
Or you can check us out at copilotsreview.simplecast.com, where you can find a link to our email, our Twitter, our Discord, and our YouTube.
And our second email?
No, that's not on there. That's right. We have a hidden second email. We mentioned it somewhere in a show.
Yeah, I always forget that joke. But yeah, we have a second email. But feel free to contact us, rate and review us wherever you listen to us. If you review us, we will eventually read that review out on the podcast.
Yeah. Talk to a friend. Refer us in physical form to a friend.
I don't want to...
Or someone else if you think they'd enjoy our stuff.
I don't want to dive too much because we're trying to wrap the show up. Like, that's how I found most of the podcast I like. Yeah. Somebody was like, hey, dude, I think you would like this podcast. And I was like, hey, dude, I like this podcast.
Yeah, that's not how I found most of mine, but yeah.
So, thanks again for flying with us.
Please fly again soon.